Hi, Misha here, and it's time for another diecast model from the Battlestar Galactica universe from Eaglemoss. This is number 11 in the series. We're progressing on. Number 12 will be out soon, which is the Cylon base star, or base ship from the new remastered series. And that completes the initial 12 that the collection was going to be. I'm sure it'll go past 12, but at least we've kind of hit that point. And this is a bit of an unexpected one, and one I didn't pick up immediately, but then I had a coupon in my email for 15% off any order. Typically special editions like the Battlestar Galactica ships, or the alien ships, or the larger Star Trek ships aren't subject for coupons, but this was an anniversary coupon they issued me, so I took advantage and grabbed this critter. This is the Cylon Raider, but a little different from what we're used to. This is the version from the Blood and Chrome web series, which was essentially an unsuccessful pilot for a new series based on the first Cylon War, which was featuring a young Ensign William Adama. And it took place kind of more or less in the middle end-ish of the first Cylon War. The colonial ship was the Viper Mark III, which was basically upgraded Mark II. And this is the Cylon Raider from that series, and it was an in-between the original 1978, 1979, 1980 Battlestar Galactica Cylon Raider here, and the standard Cylon Raider from the reimagined here. This would be the most modern, and I've looked at these in other videos, but since this is kind of a combination of the two, let's just go over again. The original Raider was actually a bit of a fighter bomber or assault transport. It was about 40 feet long with a wingspan of about 50 feet, although some sources say 41.5 feet by 54 feet. You know, take as you wish. It had a standard crew of 3. A commander/navigator, and then a pilot, and then a gunner. They sit in this large cockpit in the front. And it could transport troops. It had 2 cannon in the front. In the original series, these were lasers. In the first Cylon War, as seen in episodes of Reimagined, including Razor and Blood and Chrome itself, these were kinetic energy cannon, kinetic cannons, basically guns, or I think in, like, you know, Gatling guns. It also had internal bays under the wings for bombs or missiles, and these were seen with external bombs in the original series as well, so they could mount internal or external drop ordnance. This was not as fast or maneuverable as a Viper Mark I, but it was still quite agile. But it was more of an attack craft fighter bomber than a straight up dogfighter. But it dogfought a lot too. But that explains why it was a little bigger, a little bulkier, but at the same time it also had a longer range. But this was not FTL capable, at least in the original series, and I don't believe in the first Cylon War. Comparing that with our reimagined Raider, this is a true dogfighter. Air superiority, or I guess space and air, since it was, capable of atmosphere or not. It is about a little over 29 feet long, thanks to these long kind of forward swept wings, and a little over 18 feet wide as a span. It too has two forward-facing kinetic energy weapons. I would actually, considering the size on these, consider them more cannons than machine guns. It too had internal bays for missiles, either conventional or nuclear tipped. It doesn't seem like it could be fitted for external racks, though. Unlike the original, which had two large engines, this has three smaller ones in the back, and it is a true fighter. It was fast, maneuverable. It's a very thin plane, only about 4 or 5 feet thick, and it was FTL capable, actually very capable. On the other hand, it was pretty much a biomechanical, pretty much fully organic. It did not have a crew. It just had an internal brain, although as we saw, Starbuck ripped out the brain and flew it, so in theory a regular Cylon could fly it. But what really replaced the original Raider in the reimagined series is what we consider the Heavy Raider, because it had a crew and it could transport. But this was their frontline fighter. So with that out of the way, what do we have here? Honestly, I have no damn idea. I looked and looked. I think since Blood and Chrome came late, it was 2013 or so, and since it was a unsuccessful pilot, not much was ever really developed for it, including specs for this Raider variant here. I could not even find dimensions. To be fair, it's actually kind of hard to find dimensions on a lot of Battlestar Galactica vessels, but since they was such a popular series, both the original and the reimagined, there's some out there. But this is from a less well-known source, so I can't even tell you what size it is, which means I can't tell you if it's in scale at all with either of the others. Based on the cannon or machine guns, which are a little bigger on this versus the original, but smaller than the ones on the reimagined Raider, I can say a few things, but really we just don't know. I don't think anyone ever thought about it. It has a cockpit very similar to the original, but since it's smaller on the model, with this part back here being the same size, I almost want to think this was either a single-seater or maybe a two-seater instead of three. So same pattern of cockpit, but smaller. Oops. Same kind of goes for the engines. This has the two, but they're smaller. So the cockpit and the engines are very much like the original, but then you get to kind of the wings and the cannon arrangement, and it looks more like the reimagined, just truncated. It's also a thinner, much thinner plane. The wings themselves are mostly hollow and kind of dished out, like the reimagined Raider. Not as fat and bulky as the original. So I would say this is more of a true fighter. It doesn't seem to have internal bomb bays, or if it does, it has small ones. It doesn't seem to have the ability to carry troops like the original Raider. And since we see both of these in Blood and Chrome, I like to think in my own little head canon, which I don't like to rely on, but when there's no information, I would think this is effectively the heavy Raider at that point in the war, carrying more, maybe a little more heavily armed, able to deliver bombs and troops, but a little slower. And this is the lighter, faster, more maneuverable, lighter armed fighter. What do you think? Does that sound like a good compromise and good combination to you? I don't know if it's FTL capable, but since it has an engine arrangement like the original, I would think not, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, I always like transitional ships, or guns, or whatever. I always like seeing the steps in between. So with that, I think this is a neat model. In fact, wasn't really expecting a lot out of it. I tend to like more of the colonial models, but I'm a sucker for any of these Battlestar Galactica. This is definitely, I think, my favorite of the three still, the original. But I do like how big the new one is in the model. They really gave it an impressive size. And this one does fit right in between. I think it's kind of my second favorite of the three. It's lighter because of the thin wings. This original one is actually very heavy, very solid. Whereas this one, because of the more fine detail, it has metal. The wings are metal. And part of the middle body is metal, but it's just all around smaller. As far as physically comparing the models, this one is a little bit longer front to back than the original, but the original is a little bit wider wingspan. And obviously the reimagined fighter is the biggest in terms of length, even though in terms of size, not really. So yeah, I thought, why not compare the newest Raider with the two it fits in between. I do like that they're starting to add more Cylon ships to this collection, because it was getting rather colonial, one-sided. Issue 12 will be the reimagined base ship, or base star, so looking forward to that. And then looking forward to see if they continue the series on. Now that I've got a Raptor and 3 Vipers, I would like to see a Viper Mark III. But I would really love to see some of the less known Battlestars, like the Valkyrie. I think that'd be super neat. Or maybe even like the Cylon tanker, refueling tanker from the original series. Or the Cylon resurrection ship from the reimagined. So yeah, I'd like to see more obscure ships like this Blood and Chrome Raider here. This is kind of the first one out of the issues is not more of a standard craft, because up until this point everything we've received is pretty well the essentials. This is the first kind of indulgence, kind of obscure, but that's what makes Eaglemoss neat in the Star Trek line, is how many obscure ships that they have done that literally no other model maker has tackled. And I think this is the first Blood and Chrome model, and it's a very respectable size. It's about 10 inches wide, and again, it has metal for weight. It comes with a good stand that it very securely sits on. You know, the first 2 issues, the Viper 2 and the Raider here, they don't sit on their stand, and they sit on them well, but they're not 100% stable. They can be knocked off. But after that, they've really upped their game. I like how they sit. They don't clip in, so you can just easily pick them up. But they don't just come off either. They're very well balanced. They kind of found the center weight point and put the stand there. So no surprise. Another good Galactica model here. I like how they take a couple of months to release each one. I think they take their time. And, yeah, pretty neat. Then again, my wife and I have always been a fan of the show, so kind of have that predisposition to enjoying it. Alrighty, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this. If you could, like, share, and subscribe, and maybe check out some of my other Eaglemoss reviews, or Hobby Master, or Corgi if you're more into airplanes. Either way, I appreciate it, and I will catch you very soon next time.